Who is Jesus? And what if you met him? These are questions we've been exploring, or some of the questions we've been exploring over the last few weeks. They're questions that John wants us to explore for ourselves, to think about as we read through his book in the Bible. What if you were sitting under a tree, somewhere you like to sit, and Jesus came up to you in your day-to-day life? What if you were having fun at a party and Jesus turned up? What if you were making your living, selling things? Or what if you were worshipping? Or what if you were hiding from people because you were ashamed or embarrassed and Jesus turned up in one of those situations? What if you were hungry, you were desperate, and Jesus turned up? Or even in a storm? Or what if you went looking for Jesus? Maybe at night, so nobody would know to ask your questions. Maybe because you were desperate for him to heal a member of your family. These are all stories we've looked at the last few weeks. And raise a question: what if you met Jesus? How would you respond? But then also we should be asking, what if you were in the middle of a pandemic and went looking for Jesus? Or what if you were in the middle of a pandemic and Jesus suddenly turned up in your life? How would you respond? How have you responded? Let's return now to John's book for this week's episode of our story, with a bit of help this week from Matthew and Mark, who give us a bit of extra detail about this story, and also a mystery disciple. What were we to make of it? First, that miracle with the bread and the fish, over 5,000 people fed, and then we had to collect up 12 baskets of leftovers. No food waste here. Plenty to give to others in need. Jesus seemed to specialise in abundance. And we felt pretty stupid for doubting him. But you would, wouldn't you? Then everything went crazy. They were shouting for him to be king. And it was easy to get carried away. Free food. Freedom. We didn't know what to do next. Was this the moment to march on Jerusalem? We were ready for it. But he did nothing. Just walked off up the mountain to pray. He often did that. Odd, really. You'd think there was so much to be done. You'd think he'd be far too busy. And after all, why did he, of all people, need to take time to be alone with God? He was talking and listening to him all the time. But he did. He stopped. Time alone with God. And if he needed to, then I guess we did too. Anyway, it was evening. Jesus had told us to get back in the boat, so we set off without him. You know, that felt a bit weird. After all that drama of the day, all the excitement being with Jesus and the things he did, now it was getting dark. And it felt even darker without Jesus there. I wonder if you've ever felt like that. And then the wind got up, a bit like today. And we were over 3 miles out in the middle of the lake. It was getting stormy. It's never nice in the dark out there. But suddenly things got much, much worse. There was a ghost coming towards us across the waters. We were terrified. I'm thinking, what is this? What's going on? And then it spoke. It spoke. It said, "It's me." Jesus. We should have guessed, shouldn't we? I felt pretty stupid, wouldn't you? Not recognising Jesus. Don't be afraid. he said. Well, I tell you what, that was easier now. All very well for him to say, don't be afraid. I mean, now, not only were there no ghosts, but Jesus was with us in the boat. It's me, he said. But who are you? I thought. Who are you? Walking across the water. At least Moses walked through the Red Sea. But Jesus walked on the water. In a storm. Was this some kind of a new Passover? Some new Exodus? Some kind of a sign maybe? A clue? And then, as he got in, we were suddenly, instantly transported back to the shore. Now, you probably think I'm crazy. Actually, you might be right there. But we all experienced it. And anyway, which is more amazing? Someone healing someone of their blindness, feeding over 5,000 people with a few rolls and a couple of fish, or walking on water, or a boat being instantly transported a couple of miles back to shore. I wonder, why is it that we find some things that Jesus did easier to believe or harder than others? It's me, he said. It's me. And day by day, every day, I'm asking myself now, who are you? Who are you? You see, it wasn't just the miracles, it was the meanings, the signs, the clues. And now every time he did something new, I was starting to wonder, is there a deeper meaning to this? And maybe you've started asking that question too. Is it a sign? Is it a clue to who he is? To why he's here? The abundance of new wine, the healing of a lame man, the living water to drink, the bread broken and feeding many, walking over the waters of chaos. What did they say about him? And why is it that every time I think I've worked it out, he goes and rocks the boat? So what about us? Imagine it was you there in the boat, and Jesus appears on the water and says to you, it's me. What would that have meant to you? What would you have been thinking? And it maybe depends on what your picture of Jesus is, of who he is. How would you have felt? I mean, would you have been in awe because you recognised him as Emmanuel, God with us, the Word made flesh, who was there in the beginning? Would you have felt guilty because you imagine him there in front of you like a judge? Would you have felt embarrassed or awkward because you didn't recognise him or doubted him? Would you have felt nervous because you know he calls you to do difficult things? Matthew reports at this point Jesus called Peter towards him on the water. Would you have felt comforted because you think of him as the Prince of Peace? Would you have felt relieved because you think of him as a saviour? Would you have felt excited because you think of Jesus as a worker of miracles? How would you have felt? What do you believe about Jesus? What are you still learning about who he is? Maybe in particular as we look through this book of John. But every day as you encounter him, as you engage with him. The truth is that Jesus is all of those things and many more. He's a saviour, a friend, a brother. But he's also a teacher, a prophet, a healer, a provider. He's our great high priest, the light of the world, the bread of life, the good shepherd, the wonderful counsellor, the Prince of Peace, the true vine, the suffering servant, the way, the truth and the life, the Messiah, the gate for the sheep, the King of Kings, the resurrection, the Alpha and the Omega, the Son of Man and the Son of God. The list can go on and on. And yet this story is a reminder that whatever you are going through, however hopeless any situation seems, Jesus doesn't stay distant. He meets us in the storms of life. Even when we feel far from him, he comes, he says, it's me, all of the above. It's me, Jesus. Do not be afraid. And with Jesus, how could we be? Whatever we're going through, do not be afraid, he says. He calls us to trust him and to follow him. As you hear this next song, I invite you to imagine Jesus with you, coming to you in the boat, saying, it's me. Maybe you feel like you're in the middle of a storm at the moment of your life. Imagine Jesus coming to you, saying, it's me. Do not be afraid. Let's listen, and I invite you to make the words your own.